Have you ever thought about this? Imagine two people. They both start out from the exact same point in life. One decides to take the path of discipline, and the other, well, they choose the path of comfort. Fast forward a few years, and one of them is living the life they always dreamed of, while the other is just stuck with regrets. We're going to dive into this, because if you ask thinkers like Napoleon Hill, the real secret to success isn't just about talent or luck. It's all about self-discipline.
And really, the difference between these two paths couldn't be more dramatic. The path of discipline, it leads to a life where you actually achieve your goals, a life of fulfillment. But that other path, the one of just doing what feels good in the moment, it almost always ends in a swamp of what-ifs and I should-haves. We're not talking about small, everyday choices here. We're talking about the entire trajectory of your life. And it all hinges on this one core idea.
You know, Napoleon Hill just nailed it with this quote. The biggest, toughest battle you will ever fight isn't against your boss or the economy or anyone else. Nope, it's against yourself. It's a battle against your own impulses, your own laziness, your own fears. And here's the kicker. If you can't win that war inside your own head, winning any battle out there in the world becomes pretty much impossible. Now, when we hear the term self-discipline, our minds immediately picture something, well, kind of brutal, right? Waking up before the sun, jumping into an ice-cold shower, hitting the gym like a maniac, and sure, for some people, that's part of it. But the reality of self-discipline is so much more fundamental. It's about the small, daily, moment-to-moment control over three key things: your emotions, your habits, and your time.
So, let's tackle that first one because it's arguably the most important. Mastering your inner world. The truth is, the most critical battles you'll ever face are the ones that are raging inside your own mind. It's the constant fight against our own knee-jerk emotional reactions. Just think about it for a second. How many friendships or relationships have been completely wrecked by a few words said in a moment of anger? How many amazing ideas or career changes never even got off the ground because of fear? And how much of our precious energy gets wasted on jealousy? If you let them run wild, these three emotions, anger, fear, and jealousy, can absolutely hijack your life and steer it straight into a ditch.
Okay, so let's break this down. Something happens. Let's say someone insults you. The undisciplined path is to just react. An immediate emotional explosion that you almost always regret later. But discipline introduces this one tiny magical step, the pause. Just taking a single conscious breath. That moment, that pause is everything. It's what gives your logical brain a chance to catch up to your emotions, and it transforms a destructive reaction into a thoughtful, conscious response. That's where growth happens.
And this is exactly why that little pause is so incredibly powerful. Like Napoleon Hill said, it all starts in your head. You can't possibly control what you do if you don't first get a handle on the thoughts and feelings that are pulling the strings. So emotional discipline isn't about becoming a robot with no feelings. It's about managing your feelings so they don't end up managing you.
All right, so once you start getting a handle on your inner world, you can move on to the second pillar. This is where you start building the outer world you actually want, and you do it through the incredible power of daily habits. These are the small, repetitive actions that, over time, literally forge who you are.
I just love this way of looking at it. Habits are like these tiny, invisible threads. A single thread, it's weak, you can barely see it, but when you weave them together, day after day after day, they create the entire fabric of your life, the whole tapestry. The big takeaway here is that you don't become who you want to be by doing something amazing once a year. You become that person because of the small things you choose to do every single day.
But, and this is a big but, here's the tricky part. Our brains are basically wired for the easy way out, for instant gratification. So those negative habits, eating junk food, scrolling on our phones for hours, they feel good right now. They're easy. The positive habits, exercising, reading a book, working on a skill, they often feel hard and uncomfortable at first. Discipline is that muscle you build that lets you choose the short-term pain for the long-term gain. And the payoff for making that choice is just mind-blowing. This is the magic of what people call the compound effect. If you can just get 1% better at something each day, at the end of the year, you're not just 365% better. No way. You're nearly 37 times better. Think about that. Tiny, consistent improvements, when you stick with them, lead to an absolutely massive transformation.
This isn't some new idea. Aristotle was talking about this over 2,000 years ago. Excellence isn't some random flash of lightning, some one-off moment of genius.
It's the result of what we do over and over again. It's not an act, it's a habit, built one disciplined day at a time.
And that brings us perfectly to our third and final pillar, the discipline of time. Look, if habits are the bricks you're using to build your life, then time is the ground you're building on. It is, without a doubt, your most valuable and completely non-renewable asset.
And this right here is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter who you are, a CEO, an artist, a student, a parent, we all get the same 24 hours in a day. The people who do incredible things don't get a secret stash of extra hours. They just use the time they have with more focus and more discipline.
And it's so easy to let that time just vanish. Check this out. Just 2 hours a day of mindless scrolling on social media, and let's be honest, for many of us it's more than that, adds up to 730 hours a year. That is more than 30 full 24-hour days, a whole month. Imagine what you could accomplish with an extra month every single year. That's the real cost of undisciplined time.
So how do you get that time back? It's not that complicated, really. It starts with simple, disciplined actions. Plan your day the night before. Tackle that big, ugly task you've been dreading first thing in the morning. Put your phone away and schedule time to check it, instead of letting it control you. And this is a big one. Learn how to politely say no to things that aren't your priority. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you're saying no to something that actually is.
Okay, I know what some of you might be thinking. All this talk of rules, control, and plans, it sounds like the opposite of freedom, right? It sounds restrictive. But that brings us to the final and maybe the most important idea of all, the great paradox. The truth is, real freedom doesn't come from having no rules. It comes from discipline. Discipline is liberation.
See, there are really two kinds of freedom. There's what we could call fake freedom. That's the freedom to do whatever you want in this very moment. Eat the junk food, skip the workout, binge the show. It feels good now, but it eventually makes you a slave to your worst habits and impulses. And then there's real freedom. That's the power to actually design your future, to choose the life you want down the road. And you only earn that by conquering your impulses today. And that real freedom shows up in all the best parts of your life. The discipline to exercise and eat well, that gives you health freedom, the freedom to live an active life. The discipline to save and invest, that gives you financial freedom, the freedom from constant money stress. Disciplining your emotions brings peace, and disciplining your career brings you options and choices. All these amazing freedoms are unlocked by discipline.
So, in the end, it really boils down to a choice between two different kinds of pain. There's the pain of discipline, which can feel heavy in the moment, for sure, but it's temporary. And then there's the pain of regret, and that is a weight you might have to carry for the rest of your life.
So I'll leave you with this one question. Are you going to be the director of your own life, making conscious, disciplined choices about your emotions, your habits, and your time? Or are you just going to be a slave to your impulses, reacting to whatever pops into your head? The choice, as always, is yours.